Hi, let's give it a minute. Thanks for showing up early. We want to go over how to do how to better support your community on Discord. Hopefully it'll be around half an hour, but feel free to leave what you guys are doing, what community are you guys holding, are you guys hosting in the channel as well, so that I can take a look at too. Hey, Y Flat. Hey, Elijah. Good to see you guys. Just, I guess, like before we start, we're just gonna give it a couple minutes for people to settle in. Just a bit kind of like background stories about why we wanted to do this. So we've been around for 3 years, and over time we've seen really all sorts of communities, from gaming communities to more commercial driven communities, such as like Web3 or startups. And I think one of the things that comes up again and again across all different communities is basically how to do support. So I want to kind of like go over some of the things that we've learned about what are some of the tools that you have to do support. I know people just basically equate how to do your community support with Tickettool, but that's probably kind of like the lowest hanging fruit that you can have in terms of solutions. Let me share my screen. Let me take a look. Okay, can you guys see my screen? Cool. Okay, so let's just quickly give an overview about what kind of communities should use Discord for support. I remember a story about PayPal a long time ago. When they just started, they don't really have any resources to do B2C support, right? They're doing payment system, I think, for eBay back then. And there was this one customer who got really upset that he ended up finding the address on PayPal website and drove something like 100 miles to go to see them. And the reason why this is kind of interesting is because like people do need support, but back then you don't really have the ability to do support at a scale level, especially if you're handling millions of customers, right? But we do think things are changing. So for example, right, what are some of the communities that are great for Discord support? Any B2C companies. So in some of the companies, Skittles, for example, they have a Discord. Another cool example is Pawns.app. So they do like reward app. They also have a Discord. Bamboo, which is one of the biggest 3D printer company in the world. They also provide support on Discord. So a lot of B2C company actually use this Discord for their support. Gaming, of course, I think that we're going to go deeper into this, but there's a ton of gaming communities, either mostly indie gaming, I would say, that they will put their alpha testing, beta testing on Discord and get user feedback. Hobbyist group. So this will be, we actually come across those a lot. Basically that a group of people who are really interested in learning something. So this is also related to learning based. It could be one of the examples that I have in mind is I know a community, all they do is teach you how to dub Japanese anime in English. And then there's a lot of Russian people actually on the Discord server learning English and dubbing Japanese at the same time. So that's kind of like hobbyist group will come in for Discord. YouTubers, of course. We see YouTubers specifically around more technical and education driven, right? So if you think about this is something that your user can spend a lot of time doing and learning and then perfecting, we tended to see like those YouTube community are pretty thriving in generals. Of course, then you have the school clubs and some of the Web3 communities. So there are two reasons why you want to have Discord for support. And there's really two goals for it, right? The first is that when people come into a Discord and ask a question, the first and foremost goal is to get that question answered. It doesn't really matter answered by whom, but usually it is answered by a staff member. So for example, in our community, a lot of the Discord questions is answered by us. But second is that support is a pretty good way to transition a user from just needing help to being socially involved, and that pretty much depends on how you set up the community, what your community member looks like. But I can give you one pretty cool example, personal experience. I went to a Discord server called tip.cc. They are a pretty good, they're a really cool bot. And one of the things so I was having some questions and I asked, and one of the community member answered it for me, actually. So that's kind of like the ultimate goal that you want to have on the Discord, right? Which is like you're not answering the question because you can never scale that process. But hopefully that the question is somebody has experienced this question so that your members can help each other out. But then we start talking, then we become friends. So now this is kind of like one of the server that I just go visit because I found people play Lego there, right? So you wanted to convert from being just pure social support to social as well. So before I talk about the ways that you can support your server, the first rule is basically to think twice about the ticket system. So why shouldn't you use the ticket system? I think like if you so a lot of community, when they have a ticket system, people like to open up the ticket system rather than asking question in public, and because they think they can get an answer faster. But a lot of times that you're driving really good traffic away from your general chat to your ticket system, which are private. The second reason is because a good amount of community members, when they first join your server, the first thing they do is basically doing a instant search on your Discord. So this means that they would, if you put all the knowledgeable bits into the private channel, they will never find it. And also the fact that, if a new member join your server and see that you're actively helping and supporting other community member, generally they tended to have a pretty good impressions. What we see in a lot of the smaller community when they just started out is that their ticket system is flooded with somebody wants to be a mod, right? So a good reason that you can tell people is, okay, you should be active in my server, and maybe when we open up, we'll consider you, right? This should be a public conversation rather than a private conversation. So one of the things that we see, we are not the only one doing it, but I believe we are one of the best, is basically using AI to do public support. And here is one of our feature called Spark. It automatically reads your documentations and answer member questions. And this is an example. Some interesting stats about AI over human. First is that about 10 to 25% of the user would choose to prefer to talk to an AI first before talking to a human. And there's two reasons mainly for this. First is that people feel embarrassed to ask questions, right? Maybe this is something really easy and I just don't know the answer. I don't want to sound stupid. Or they just really want an answer fast, and AI is the fastest way that they can get an answer. So those are two reasons. I would say like in our data sample that we've seen, maybe about 1 to 2% of the member will always only chat with AI. Those are not unusual, but it's also not very usual. Usually there is a process of transitioning someone from relying on AI for help to kind of like include it into your general communities. So that's the part about like how to do it, right? If you see somebody like talking to AI a lot about a particular problem, it's quite easy. All you have to do is just to jump in the conversation and start providing help, right? So for example, this user, he was asking a lot of questions with Spark when he actually joined the server right away. And then I realized that sometimes our bot is not able to answer those questions. So I would just like chime in, and then I would just like get this conversation out of the AI loop into the human loop. I would say one of the most valuable informations that we've ever got is like my favorite thing to do every day when I go to Discord is actually check our AI support channel, just because like I can see, what are people really confused about and how to make the product better, right? Like when people feel like they're not being judged, they tend to be a lot more honest, and that can help you in terms of improving your product. So if you really want to have a ticket, I would say like, if you think you need a ticket, you probably don't. If you feel like you have to, absolutely, this is like ticket should be happening yesterday, then maybe that's a yes, right? So usually people use ticket when there's private information being shared. I would say like, for example, if you're Web3 and the private information is the public wallet address, I wouldn't say that counts as a private information. I have one community manager, and he basically told me that he used a ticket channel because he does not want people to FUD on their server, to just say like all the bad things on the server. So I have mixed feelings about this. I do think like having honest opinions are really important, but also like managing perceptions is also like quite important as well. But if you decide to use a ticket, there's like only a couple things that you really have to consider for you to kind of like say, okay, this is the tool that to be used, or this particular bot to be used. First is that how easy it is to set up. Like it's a ticket tool, right? You really don't want to spend like half an hour trying to do some research about how to set this up. Like if it's not easy to set up, like the fault is not on you, right? And second is that login and transcript system. Typically, we found is quite useful. Again, like going over to see what issues users are facing. They provide like tremendous amount of values to your other team members, right? For example, your developers or like other core members, they are not necessarily on Discord. They can look at the questions and then they can continue to improve the documentation. So login system are quite important. Third is that I know for some community, you can get like really busy and scale is quite an issue. Some bots are pretty good at scaling, but some are not, right? Because ticket system, what they do is that they would open up a private thread. And on Discord, you can actually open up to 500 threads per category, and you can only do X amount of categories within X amount of days, right? So reliability over a huge volume is another thing that you should consider. So here's like we actually went over, we look at like 7-8 ticket tool systems, and then we tried all of them. We actually internally do not use a ticket system. So when somebody goes like, please check my ticket, I know he like doesn't know our community because we don't have it. But if you want us to do it, our free pick tool, our free bot, we recommend is Ticket King. We know it's quite reliable because we have a lot of community using it, and we don't really see a lot of problem with it. We like it a lot because it's really easy to get the basic done, right? It's basically you want people to like click on something and then they ask a question, you answer it, you close the ticket, right? There is not really much like you really need. And this is like a super ticket tool is kind of like a super easy bot to just like get this done in 1 minute. And the best part is it's free, right? So like if you don't want to pay for a bot, this is like as good as they get, especially that it's great for scaling. Ticketing is one of my favorite tools. If you have a little bit budget, I think they do like maybe $6-7 per month. It's pretty. It's very pretty. We spend a lot of time doing a pretty dashboard, so like I appreciate it when someone makes everything easier for me on the dashboard side. They do a couple of things that's really cool. They do something called a category customizations, right? So for example, right, if you want to do this is an issue about the product. This is an issue about mod applications. This is an issue about servers, right? So you can basically do different categories, and when people were trying to kind of like spam you in the different categories, you can just go like, no, like you're on the wrong category, so you close the ticket. Another feature that's really cool is basically auto reminding. So for example, this happens all the time. We have like tickets not closed for 3 months, and the reason is because somebody forgot to follow up, right? And back then, if you have a ton of tickets, we ask our moderators to just like keep reminding people about like you have to like keep checking the tickets, otherwise it's basically flooding all the space within the communities. This does this automatically, so I automatically remind people to follow up with their ticket, which is really, really nice. And then finally, it auto close, right? You know, like how you say how you want to close the ticket, so you tell user, I'm going to close this ticket, and then you just forgot, and then this ticket just hang for another 3 days. Tickety automatically close the ticket for you, so it's extremely nice feature. And finally, there's very detailed logging that you can use. It's much powerful compared to ticketing, but it's kind of like a paid system, so it's not that much though. Okay, so like those are general tools for ticket, right? But like those are general tools for support, right? Ticket is a function of support, but there's other like support that you should do depending on what kind of server that you are, right? Like you think about the goal, which is to get everybody question answered, and also hopefully that people learn something along the way too, so that they continue to kind of like try to play with your product. So there are different kind of tools that we found for different specific type of categories of communities. So one of the tools that we found is called Submiti. So if you have an open source project, if you are integrated with GitHub, this is a specific bot just for technical feedback. track and to track suggestions. So it's not a generic ticketing tool, but it does have a lot of features that's around just for developer focused. Another tool is this bot called Beta Hub. So if you are an indie game developers and you are just basically looping people in at this point, and you haven't really decided on what to do yet, and you're going to do the alpha testing, beta testing, I would recommend to play around with Beta Hub bot, because I know they integrated pretty closely with your gaming system so that they can so that it can tell you like what's happening, what is the feedback specifically related to this game features that you have. So I recommend this tool to kind of like play around with it. Final tool that you have, which I feel like is significantly underrated, we should like all pay attention to, is basically Discord native threads. They call it forums. I think it's called forums now. So I took a screenshot of how we do it. And this is kind of like how we manage our external feedback tracking systems with our members, right? I would say there are one unexpected benefit of using the forum over any other tools out there, and the reason is because like if your community is really spammy in a sense, like people like to say GMGN across all your channels, they never do that in forum because it's much harder. You have to like come up with the title, then come up with the content. So it's much harder for them to spam low effort content. This also means that when people really posted something, this is coming from, they really wanted this, right? They actually go to extra efforts to do this. So your quality of the conversation is actually much higher. Forum, I think, is Discord way of trying to kind of like put combine discourse and Discord into kind of like one platform. So the way we manage our forum is by using tags. So for example, right, we have a couple different products. We have analytics, we have Spark, which is the chatbot. We have bugs on our bot side, we have bugs on our dashboard side, and then we have this resolve tag, and then we categorizing depending on if they are bugs or suggestion. That's like how we do it. So for example, one of the things I do is basically I would go over what's happening within the like I would go over all the threads basically every week to see like, okay, what are some of the outstanding bugs and what are some of the suggestions that I can implement. We do actually integrate our Discord we use Asana on the back end. So that's kind of like how we communicate on what features to being pushed. But this is something that we pretty much manage very, very actively in order to figuring out kind of like what's happening. I'm going to pause for a second because I realized that I did not give you guys a chance to ask questions. So if you have any questions, feel free to leave it on the message because I am looking at it right now. Okay. So I want to talk specifically about feedback. Because just because you have, one of the things we notice is that just because you build all the tools doesn't mean that people are going to come and give you feedback. I think giving feedback is not a very natural inclinations that people do, especially when you're just getting started as a project, right? It really goes against human nature, right? Because you basically need to tell someone that they needed to do this thing better in a way that makes you look smart. So here's what we noticed. First is that if you want to encourage people to give you a lot of feedback, this is something people can learn. This is not something people have naturally, but people can develop in the right environment. First is that track all the feedback and all the bug fix consistently. So for example, we use tags. I know there was a server called Banana. So they are a Steam like click to collect game. Like you literally just collect bananas, and they use a bot called Carl, Carl. Let me just write it down here. So they use Carl to collect feedback. And the way they do it is that when people give them feedback, they would basically give a yes, no, maybe. No, they would tell like right away why this is a horrible idea. Yes, they'd be like, okay, yes, but we need some time to do this. Or yes, we do this at this time. And then the maybe like they'll come back, right? So it's not like you have to say yes to all the feedback, but you needed to give feedback after feedback, right? And to let people know that, okay, you have received this. And I do think like it is not possible to do it if like 10,000 feedback per day. A couple thousand is quite doable actually. So second thing is that one of the things, there was this one server, and I think they were talking about how they wanted kind of like some ability to translate some content from one channel to another channel by introducing the bot. And it was the community manager like literally did it right away. And that was a great experience for the users, right? I would say like watch out for those, right? Watch out for things that are just extreme low-hanging fruit. Those are the things that like so easy to do. It like literally just requires to change a button or something, right? People do appreciate those. And this is kind of like how you say, okay, I've acknowledged something is happening. The third part is that, okay, so let me talk about the 80-20 rules, right? So that pretty much exists very well within the feedback, how you get feedback. 20% of user will give you 80% of the feedback. I wish there are more users give us feedback, but that's kind of like, that's end up being the rule in general, also in life. So you should think about your job isn't to get as many people to give you feedback, but to cultivate the people who could potentially give you a lot of feedback to actually giving you those feedbacks, right? So that brings to the third point, which is like how you convert those potential people. And for us, it is reward users. You should reward users very generously, especially when this is the first time they give you feedback, right? Because people are not sure how they would take your feedback. So as an example, different community give back differently. So I'm going to show you the example that we do. Because we use Hype Engine to manage kind of like our engagement system. Quest, they earn points, they can play quest on a daily basis, and they will be able to earn points, which then they can use to buy raffle tickets for Nitro, Steam, and Credit. So like we have the point system, but then the point system also like worth something, right? So the way we do it when we notice that somebody give us feedback is like it literally is right here. So we basically tell, oh yes, it doesn't honestly, it doesn't really matter what kind of feedback, because at the very beginning, any feedback is great feedback, right? We wanted to encourage the right behavior of this particular user. We want this user to know that we appreciate it. But most importantly, we want other people to look at this user, go like, oh, that's an easy way to earn 30 points, which like most tasks is like really 5 points, like 3 points or 5 points, right? So like 6 times more if I just like give a good feedback. So this is how we do it. We notice that if we give a good amount of points, as soon as this user give us a feedback, we tend to see this user coming back again and again to give us more feedback. And that's kind of like how we create an environment where we can learn, kind of get feedback from users. I would say that for us, just internally, we build for Discord, right? We build on Discord as well. So we spend maybe, if we do sprint, we spend maybe 50 to 60% of the time working on the features that people have talked about it on our Discord. Another really useful thing for us is it wasn't the fact that they just tell us that they wanted this. It was the fact that many different people would tell us over time independently that they wanted this, right? So for example, when we do the feature for Spark, one of the features that we are launching is called Discover from Discord. Discover Discord knowledge. The idea here is that we will look at your Discord knowledge, and then we would decide, okay, if this is a knowledge, that it should be synced with the rest of your knowledge base, so that you don't have to answer the same question twice, right? So this is a feedback that we got from the community over years, many times. And the reason why we never did it is because it is such a hard feature. I know a good amount of server goes like they learn from Discord data, but their product is completely horrible. It is very hard. Like, why do we do something extremely hard? Because we know that this is something that makes a lot of sense for a lot of people in different situations, right? So I think that's another point to make, is that like if somebody give you feedback on your channels, like you should not stop at oh, I'm gonna do it, or I'm not gonna do it, right? What you should do is that you learn a bit more about that particular users, right? Like for example, like why he wanted this thing, and like the background about this particular user that's relevant to the product, right? So for us, it's like, oh, are you managing a commercial server or a hobby server? Like how many moderators are like manually doing this? How do you manage your current doc, right? So you want enough context, because like the killer feature that you have of a product is something that resonate with a core group of people that have commonality beyond the surface, right? It's just beyond like I'm a 20-year, like 30-year-old woman, that kind of a commonality, right? So Discord is a great opportunity for you to learn more about the people who give you the feedback and like where they come from, and then like why this is a good solution to their problems. This is actually all the material that I have. We have 5 minutes left. I wanted to leave the time to you guys to see if you have any questions for me. You can ask anything. I know we talk about support feedback. That's kind of like our main theme for these sessions. But like anything really specifically to Discord, feel free to kind of like leave a message here, and I will see what I can do to answer your questions. I would say, so we are still kind of like doing our Spark sprint. This has been going on much longer than we expected. I think it was like out of control how long this process is. Okay. Is there a way to sync Discord feedback to Slack? So if you use our bot, the way you can do it is you can go to a dashboard, you can take a screenshot of all the problems that people are having, and then post the screenshot onto Slack. I don't think I know any native Discord bots that does it. But I also wanted to ask, like, what do you need? Like, who is the target audience on the Slack side? I think another really interesting thing about kind of like feedback is that so the community, so like for example with Spark, right? We got feedback literally across 3 years period of time, and the reason we know that, okay, for example, right, the knowledge sync from Discord is a really valuable feature is because like it's just me and then the same team managing the Discord across years, right? So if your organization is changing all the time, you have like different moderators all the time or different community managers all the time, like you should have a pretty good system in tracking feedback, because like when they're gone, they're not gonna, like you wouldn't realize that this feedback exists like 3 years ago, right? So I think like tracking is more important when you're if your community is kind of like come and goes. Okay. So Danny says that my colleagues doesn't use Discord, and bridging the two would help PM get valuable feedback from the community. Yes, I totally agree. Yes, I can see some developers don't use it. Okay, so I would say this, like Discord is inherently a messy platforms, right? There's like good things and then a ton of not so valuable messages across. Typically, for example, right, if I wanted to discuss, like I need to convince, for example, my team member that we need to do this Discord discovery thing, and my team member is not on Discord as long as I do, right? So I basically needed to sell him this idea that even though this is a really hard feature, we should do it. So I'm kind of like in your position in that sense. I would say that you should be the one that looking over all the feedback, because you are the one that's mostly closely with Discord and with your consumer market. And then you should have a synthesized summary version of it. I would say that people tended to, it's easier to convince people, not by, oh, this amount of people say that this is a problem, right? Like it's hard to count those things. Plus, like if you have a community of 100,000 people, like 5 people saying this is the feature that they want, doesn't really mean anything, right? I think a more useful persuasion is like, this user wanted this because they are going to use this for this purpose. Then I have another community that's completely independent, or like I have another member that's completely independent from this other users coming from a different member wanted this like face the same issue, and this is stopping them from doing this and that. So I would say use a combination of like a high level summary and detailed stories, context and stories to make your team to like be able to like emphasize, sympathize on whatever users are feeling. So I think that's tended to be more effective in terms of giving feedback, relaying the feedback to the team. Any other questions or comments? Okay, so if you have any questions, you can always ask us on our Discord. And our new version of Spark is being gradually released as we speak. There is the free tier and the paid tier, but both version is significantly improving. We are pushing out the Discord knowledge sync feature as we speak. It has been extremely difficult to do, but I'm glad we did it. So feel free to check it out. If you have any questions, feel free to ask me on our Discord as well. Okay, I appreciate for everybody showing up here. I will talk to you guys next time then. Bye, guys.